This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com, and this is my first ever tag team interview with Crimson and Jax Dane. They're affiliated with the NWA still. I know Jax has wrestled for New Japan. They've both wrestled in multiple other companies such as Impact Wrestling. Jax has been in Ring of Honor, I know, but we're going to get to know them a bit better today. And of course, we're going to announce it right now, February the 6th, the Sweethearts Brawl, just outside of Dallas, Texas. They're going to be making their SWE Fury debut. So how are you boys today?
Doing okay, man. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. Is Crimson frozen there, or is he able to talk? He might be temporarily frozen. Let's take him in and out again.
Thought he looked pretty stoic there for a second. Okay. I mean, I didn't.
But SWE Fury, while we wait for Crimson to come back, are you excited about this heading to Texas?
Oh man, absolutely. You know, when I first really broke into the business, I trained at Ohio Valley Wrestling for a few years, and then my mother got sick, so I stopped wrestling completely. Moved back to Tennessee to help take care of her. Then made the move out to Texas, man. So I spent 4 or 5, 6 good years in Texas. So anytime I get a chance to go back out there, that's basically my wrestling home, man. Especially, you know, the San Antonio, Dallas market. I've worked for several guys out there, man, and being able to go back out there, lace my boots, bring my tag team partner who's never wrestled with me out there in Texas, man. That's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So really looking forward to that.
Now, to just get into your career a bit, you look like you may have been a football player before you got into wrestling. What sports did you do before wrestling?
No, man, I'm going to blow your mind. I played basketball, and I played basketball in college. I was a point guard, a shooting guard, and at times a small forward. So, you know, a lot of times people ask me if I played football, and when I tell them that I was a basketball player and then played a little bit of semi-pro with a travel team, really blows their mind because I'm not really a basketball build anymore. That's for sure.
What college did you play at?
I played at a school right outside of Nashville called Martin Methodist College. We ran AIA Division I, one of the top 20 teams in the country. And then I played junior college basketball down at Wallace State in Huntsville, and we were top 20 in the country down there too. So we were pretty good, man. Had a lot of fun and won a lot of games. Won 100 basketball games in college. So it was you know, you win 100 games in a 4-year career. It's a pretty good run.
Did you always have some interest in wrestling during those days?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I think anybody that's my age or grew up in my era grew up loving professional wrestling. I mean, Saturday night's main event into Monday Night Wars. I mean, it was part of our culture. It's part of what we grew up loving to watch and loving to do, and pretending to be guys as children on the trampolines and, you know, don't try this at home. Well, hell, we were all trying it at home, and it was just a lot of fun, man. And you always, or I would like to think in a lot of cases, most of us start out as fans and then we turn into professionals, and that's how I got here.
Now, is there any wrestlers that you liked in particular growing up that you kind of idolized?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, and I think I would hope you could kind of see it in the in sort of the style that I bring to the ring. Obviously, the Road Warriors. Everybody loved the Road Warriors. Animal and Hulk. Joe Laurinaitis was a great inspiration for my career. Was fortunate enough to be managed by him for a couple of years, and really appreciate the time that I got to spend with him. Nikita Koloff was another that was just larger than life. Sting, Ultimate Warrior, I mean, Hogan, Savage, that whole era of guys that were just larger than life, man. That's what I really loved. And then as I got a little bit older and a little bit more involved, you really start to like Eddie Guerrero. Brock had an amazing, or still having an amazing career, but Brock was really, really good, really fast, and he was a lot of fun to watch. Kurt Angle, you could just go down the list, Edge, all those guys. I mean, they were all influential and some of my favorites.
And as far as Crimson, were you always a wrestling fan growing up? I know you also did a lot before getting into wrestling. You were in the military, and I believe you played sports prior to wrestling as well.
Yeah, always been a huge fan of wrestling. My earliest memory as a kid, just in front of the TV, just watching old school WWF, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, guys like that, just capturing my attention, man. I've always loved it my whole life. Even joined the military, I always kept up with it. When I deployed to Iraq, I would get DVDs shipped over to me. Me and some friends would watch during our off time, downtime, and still a fan to this day, obviously.
What made you join the military, and what were some of the challenges you faced over there in Iraq? Obviously, putting your life on the line for us.
And at the time, I was young, fresh out of high school, and the college I chose was a community college back home. And I'll be honest, man, it was like basically a fifth year of high school. And during my high school days, I was doing a lot of partying, and I realized real quick that right then and there, college wasn't. I had some growing up to do. I had some responsibilities to take care of, and the military was the best option. So off I went, man. And I went to Iraq twice. And, some of the biggest challenges, obviously, one, being away from my family, and two, is just being in a different country and having to kind of adjust and adapt to their cultures and the obvious threats of being over there and doing the missions we were doing. So, I was very lucky, fortunate to come home. Some of my friends didn't, but, I was able to come home and pursue my dreams, and very thankful for every opportunity I got along the way.
Were you involved in any action over there in Iraq?
Yeah, so my main mission over there, I was with the 101st Airborne Division, and they were one of the most deployed units in the United States Armed Forces. So it was constant deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, and my main mission over there was working with the Iraqi police and Iraqi army, training those guys up, and also doing combat patrols daily, 12 hours a day. And to say we saw some stuff, that was an understatement. But yeah, definitely saw a lot. Did a lot.
How did you keep your mental health intact? Because I know some other people that have been overseas, and some of them haven't done so well and are on disability and so forth these days just because of the mental trauma they endured over there.
Yeah, it's one is having a strong will. Luckily, I was able to have the willpower to just get up daily and do my missions over there. And I'll be honest, a lot of guys just suppress those feelings and those emotions and do the job. We all signed up for it, and we all knew what we were signing up for and signing up to do. It doesn't say, it doesn't take anything away from any of those guys and girls that are dealing with some of the PTSD issues and things like that stem from deployments and things. But, I think anybody that goes over there and sees what we saw, you come back different. And, it's all about, me. Luckily, I had that support system when I got back, and also jumping right into pro wrestling. That was something that occupied my mind and took up all my time. So it was a good distraction, to say the least, for me.
Jax, you have some people commenting that you look like the Warlord.
I can promise you that's not the first time I've heard that. So that's not unusual. I get the Warlord a lot, and then I'll get more often than not I'll get a Stone Cold, which I guess is probably the bald head and the facial hair. You know, I get Goldberg, I get Brock, I get the Warlord. I mean, comes with the territory, man. It's
Hey, Warlord's spot on.
it's
My
kind of funny.
8-year-old son, he's got a Warlord action figure and he uses him as Jax.
And the
Yeah, man,
Warlord's a great
for
guy
sure.
too in real life.
Absolutely, man, absolutely.
Now, you both mentioned that you were fans of the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, he had heat. People like to try and tarnish his legacy, but how would you guys rate the Ultimate Warrior's career as far as just being an entertaining character and inspiring both of you to get in the business in a way?
Well, I think you almost for me, when I was head over heels with the Ultimate Warrior, it's when I was a kid. So at that point, you really don't understand a lot of what goes on in the world outside of the world that you live in. So just at that time, for me, man, he was like Crimson said, he was larger than life. He was colorful. He was painted. He ran to the ring. He was everything. He was something that everybody else in that company wasn't, and that made him stand out for me. As far as his tarnished legacy, that's for other people to decide, man. That's not up to me to decide. Who am I to judge anybody? We all have our own faults, man. We all have our shortcomings. It's not for me to judge anybody's actions. That's their business. They've got to reap what they sow, and it's got nothing to do with me.
He made such a large impact in the wrestling world. I mean, you can't deny that. Nobody can deny that. And you got to think about it. You know, Jax hit it on the head. We started watching when we were kids, and we saw what was presented to us as kids. And guys like the Ultimate Warrior did exactly what he was supposed to do, is capture our attention and hook us in. And I mean, he did just that. We're still fans today, 20 some years later. You know, I'm still watching. I still love wrestling. Obviously, favorites have changed along the way. But as far as hooking those fans in at a young age, I mean, no one did it better, in my opinion.
Now, as far as your training in both of your cases, who did you train and how was the difficulty of the training for pro wrestling compared to other sports?
Go ahead, Krim.
So I literally, as soon as I got back from deployment from Iraq, I searched far and wide and found a NWA training facility in Nashville. It's a little affiliate, obviously, back then when I first started training, and I had some solid, reputable trainers. I trained with a guy initially named Jack Daniels, who saw his fair share of action at the end of the territory days, wrestled on all the major promotions. He taught me the basics, fundamentals, and I was able to hit the road with guys like Jerry Lynn and learn under those guys. I went to several different camps and different training opportunities along the way. One of my favorites being the Harley Race Camp. And I'd say, in comparison to any other sport, I played basketball, I played football in school, and none of those sports can hold a candle to wrestling training, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, you know, even going and playing sports through all those years and then going to the military, I've never been as injured in my life as I have been with sports entertainment, as some people call it, pro wrestling. No, it's grueling. It's physical. People don't really understand that unless you've actually gone through the training. But I mean, to me, it's the most intense thing I've ever done.
And what about you, Jax? How was the training?
Oh man, my training was almost a dream come true. I started with Nick Dinsmore, Rip Rogers, and Danny Davis up at Ohio Valley Wrestling. You know, those guys built my foundation for me. Then when I moved out to Texas, I started tagging with Rob Conway. So I got to tag with Rob Conway, who was just out of the WWE at the time, for a couple of years touring in Japan. So that was the training and an education in itself. What a lot of people don't understand is when I first went to New Japan on that first tour, I had less than 30 matches under my belt at that time. And here I am wrestling the best wrestlers in the world. My first match in New Japan was Tenzan and Kojima, Harry and Lance. Obviously, you're familiar with those guys, and Rob. couldn't have been put in a better position right out of the gates over there. But it was a trial by fire, education by fire. I was really fortunate that my foundation was built by Rip and Danny and Dr. Tom and Dinsmore, and then Rob Conway really brought me around with a huge influence on my training and education while we were in Japan. Learned on the fly, man. I mean, it's not a position that I think a lot of guys could have handled, and was real fortunate to be in that position, but was real fortunate also to have the people around me that I did. As far as injuries, physicality is the most physical thing I've ever done in my life. You can't, there's nothing outside of going and crashing your car at about 30, 35 miles an hour that can prepare you for what professional wrestling training is. If you're training properly, you're putting yourself through the paces to become a pro. It's grueling, but on top of it being grueling, it's very fulfilling as well, because once you can get to the level where you can go out and perform and be successful, it makes all that work worth it, and the injuries that Crimson spoke about, it makes that all worth it. And I would probably go out on a limb and say, to his point, there's probably less than 2% of professional wrestlers that are healthy. There's always something, man. There's always something that hurts, and you just work through it. You just dig through it, and you just go out and do your job.
Now, speaking of injuries, we have a fan on the Great North Wrestling Twitch stream watching this that wants to know your guys' opinion on the scariest bump a wrestler could take. Maybe we could get Crimson's first.
Scariest bump a wrestler could take. I mean, I'd say anything coming off the top of a ladder or top of a cage. I don't do so well with heights, even though in the military I would come out of helicopters 50 feet in the air and like nothing. But when I'm climbing up the top of a ladder or top of the cage, it's like it's a different perspective, I guess. So I mean, that's obviously the most dangerous. You're dependent on whoever you're looking down at being there for you, or being a bit of a crash pad for you to land on. But I'd say for me, that's the most worrisome bump, when I'm climbing 15 feet in the air and looking down, like, oh shit.
It's an understatement. For me, I mean, three bumps come to mind when you ask that. The Foley bump off the cage, insane. I mean, unbelievable. Either of the 2 or 3 Shane McMahon bumps that we've all seen 100 times, and the Kurt Angle moonsault off the was it the Titantron, Crimson? The moonsault, the big Kurt Angle moonsault.
I've seen
any of those 3, man.
A few times.
Yeah, I mean, those are the big Cody Rhodes moonsault off the cage, man. I mean, that's impressive, man. It's scary as hell. I'm glad it's them and not me.
There's a fan on here, Jefferson. He says you guys both spent some time in Nashville. Have you ever come across Dr. D, David Schultz?
No, man. Spent plenty of time. Well, I still live in the Nashville area. So does Jax. So we're out here. We ain't running to Dr. D yet. So maybe one of these days.
I haven't crossed paths with him, man. But yeah, we both pretty much call Nashville home still. We live about 45 minutes apart, so we're able to get together quite a bit over here.
Has there been any talk with you guys and Impact? I mean, I know they don't pay very much, but they are doing their tapings in that area these days.
Yeah, we have a – go ahead, Crim. Well, I was just going to say it, and I'll let Crimson follow up. We have an outstanding relationship with Impact, Scott D'Amore and his team. We love those guys. They seem to love us. It's a great relationship. When they come to Nashville, we do what they ask of us.
Yeah, man. So actually, we like Jax had a great relationship with Impact. They're doing great things, man. That's who put us together as the Veterans of War back in 2017, and that's the first time I met Jax ever. Was through Impact Wrestling, so I'm forever grateful. Yeah. And whenever they come to Skyway Studios, they come in and do their thing, and we help support them. And anything they need of us. I run a promotion out here, Trying True Pro Wrestling in the Nashville area. We're not doing live events right now, obviously, with the COVID restrictions and everything, but we had a hell of a year, 2019 going into 2020. So definitely whatever we can do to support them when they come to town, we do. And, you know, we wrestled for it with Impact a few months back. We did an Explosion match and wrestled the North. Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, two outstanding talents, man, two great athletes. And it was awesome to be in the ring. So if you haven't checked that out, check that match out. It aired. I don't know when it aired. It was Explosion schedules. You know, it's a little off for me, but it was a few months ago. And you know, we hope to continue to have opportunity with Impact down the road. Like I said, I think before we came on air, I was coming off of a shoulder injury and surgery right before the COVID lockdowns happened in March. So we're actually preparing to get out there and do our thing again. So hopefully we will have continued opportunity with them.
And speaking of Impact, Carlos says, what did you think about your first theme music in TNA, Stranger to Danger?
That's still hands down the best theme that Impact has ever produced, hands down.
I think he uses that as his ringtone, man. I don't know for sure. Maybe. think when I call him, that's what pops up on his ringtone. Don't let him lie.
Yeah, I remember Crimson from TNA. Actually, we haven't got it really up here in Canada unless you have like extra TV stations since the Spike days. But I remember the big push that you got when you came in undefeated for over a year. How did you end up getting signed with them, and what happened? Because it seems like they gave you a big push and then you disappeared.
Yeah, so very fortunate again to right place, right time. I was at an independent show in Nashville, and one of their agents at the time, Terry Taylor, was just at this independent show. He was there to see another guy that was wrestling on the card. But I was actually double shotting that night, so I came in right before my match, got to the back, and I didn't even know Terry was there, but he followed me to the back and just kind of asked for my information, asked who I was. First time I had met him. And he gave me his phone number. I gave him mine, and we kept in contact. I said I looked great. Here's some things to work on. Keep in touch. And literally, you know, every chance I got, I would give him a call, give him a text, and see what I could do to get in front of them. And I was brought down to Orlando for a dark match. I wrestled Jay Lethal, my first dark match with them, and one of my favorite matches to this date, period. And at that point, they wanted to keep in touch, and I'd say about 6 months later, in 3 or so matches, dark matches later, they actually signed me to a deal. And it was an amazing push at the time, and one I didn't expect. And obviously I was welcoming to. But as things happen, as time progresses, there's changes made behind the scenes, backstage, and along with those changes, creative decisions are changing along those lines too. So I think that's just that's just one of those things that happened to me. There were some changes behind the scenes that kind of changed things on the screen too. So that's what I attribute that to, and that's what it is. And by the end of 2013, I was also very burnt out in dealing with a torn ACL and torn meniscus in my right knee that I've been wrestling on without anybody really knowing for about 2 years, almost 2 years at that point. So once they pulled me off TV, I told them that I needed to get surgery on my knee, and that was that. So one of those things.
And for you, Jax, how did you become involved with Impact for the first time?
Oh man, I was living in Houston, and it was a Wednesday. it was a Wednesday, and I got a phone call from Abyss, and he said, "Hey Jax, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, I'm in Houston." He said, "Well, if we get you a plane ticket, can you be in Orlando for the next few days to film TV? We got an idea for you. and we'd like to have you down here tomorrow. So Thursday, I met Crimson. Thursday night, they put us on TV. So that's, I mean, honestly, that's how it went that fast. So yeah, that's why when Crimson and I are talking to younger talent, man, from time to time, or we get a chance to talk to these kids that are just starting out, man. That's why it pays to always be ready, man. I had no idea that Impact was I was on their radar. I had no I mean I had no idea. And then boom, my phone rings on a Wednesday, and on Thursday I'm flying down to film TV Thursday night. So that's how quick it can happen. And like to Crimson's point earlier, about how you can fade in and out and on TV is you never know. I mean, they had another gentleman. They had another gentleman in the position with Crimson. He backed out at the last second, took another gig, left a spot open, and my phone rang. So it's just it's a cascade of dominoes, man. You never know. You never know when your phone will ring. You never know when your time will come. So I mean, within 24 hours, I went from being a free agent to signed to on an airplane to on TV.
So for people that aren't too familiar with your Impact's work, what are some of the highlights of your time there, and what would you describe your style as a team?
Favorite matches there, obviously, we're working with LAX, man. For me, I mean, working with Ortiz and Santana, and those guys are doing a good job over at AEW now. I really liked working with those guys, and we had several matches with Mario and Fala as well. Those were fun. And then our style, this is funny, man, because you asked earlier about us going to Texas and SWE and SWE Fury, and my excitement to take Crimson out to Texas for the first time and tag with him out there is that we wrestle that style. And that style is straightforward, punch you in the mouth. We got a few fancy tricks up our sleeve from time to time, but for the most part, we just like to kick ass and do what we do. And that's what we plan on doing out in Texas for SWE.
Yeah, that big event coming up February 6th in Dallas. Crimson, are you excited to make your SWE debut? I mean, a lot of people don't put them in the top federations yet, but I think they actually have better TV exposure than MLW. They're available in something like 33 million homes.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to get down there. And, especially coming off these several months, 9 months, 10 months, we've been under these COVID restrictions now, not able to wrestle in front of an audience. And going down to Texas, which I know they're going to have some strict guidelines in place and everything should be, on the up and very safe. But I can't explain how excited I am to actually get back in the ring, get in front of some people, and do what we do best, man, especially in Texas. Texas is one of my favorite places to go. I haven't been there in years. I haven't wrestled there in years. So for Jax to go in there and starts, doing business with SWE and just the track record he has gotten to be able to bring me in and do some tagging down there, I can't freaking wait.
And speaking of you mentioning wrestling in front of fans, which SWE does have according to guidelines, Peace and Love is asking, what is it like wrestling in front of no or few fans? You guys have probably been doing it.
Awkward,
yeah.
Man, awkward. I mean, that's to say the least. It's I guess you don't realize, it's the old cliche, you don't realize what you have till it's gone. How much you depend on the fans and the emotion of the fans, and to elicit that emotion from the fans that makes you enjoy what you do. It's awkward to wrestle in a studio with no fans just for TV. It's that's why I really applaud these guys that are going out and doing it every day right now and doing a really good job of it at WWE and AEW and Impact and Ring of Honor in their bubble, because it is a chore to go out and have great matches without that fan interaction.
Carlos,
that's all we.
Oh, sorry.
No, in this business is we work off of that affirmation from the fans. We work off that reaction. We want to elicit that emotion, harness that, and that's what drives us as entertainers
Yes.
in that aspect. So to take that away, it's a whole new world for a lot of us. So we've only done it a handful of times. Like I said, we were able to wrestle the North and Impact on Explosion in front of no audience. So it was definitely something to get used to. I don't want to say I hated it or didn't like it, but it was definitely strange.
There's a fan on here asking Crimson if he still keeps in touch with Angelina Love.
No. It's been years since I've seen those TNA originals. A lot of them. So yeah, it's been a while.
This is a question probably for Jax. Where's the best steak in Texas?
Oh man. Oh, I mean, there's so many great steakhouses in Texas, man.
That's the question you get, Jax. Awesome. Softball.
Yeah, softball. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of Three Forks, man, or Bob's Chop House. Either one. They do a great job.
What's the biggest steak you've ever eaten in a sitting?
Oh man. This is funny, and I think if you go back through Tommy Dreamer's Twitch channel, maybe a couple years ago, Al Snow up at OVW, or last year, Al Snow, Chad Miller, those guys at OVW, had a steak eating contest for charity. And it was myself and Tommy Dreamer, a couple strength coaches from the University of Louisville, and a former professional basketball player. And I ate about 3 pounds, 11 ounces of steak in one sitting, and got 4th place. Dreamer, his fat ass, ate about 4 pounds and had mashed potatoes and the gravy. So I mean, I can't eat steak like Tommy Dreamer. No, all jokes aside, we love Tommy, but man, that was a miserable experience. To eat 3 pounds of steak in one sitting, man, is miserable. I was sweating. I was sick. For 2 days, I was sick, and I will never do that again. I will never be tricked into a steak eating contest again, ever. Never.
Yeah, I remember I did the 72-ounce steak eating contest once here in Canada, and I was thinking I could bounce later that night. And thank God nothing serious happened at the club that night, because I was feeling like shit.
Oh, it's man. Miserable. People don't understand until you get all that food in you, man. And I'll never do that again. That was a lesson learned, because you start out like you want to win, but then you go from wanting to win to just wanting to survive. I mean, you don't even care about winning anymore. You just don't want to die. I mean, and it was miserable, man. I'll never do that again.
Now, the first time I became aware of you guys as a tag team was Road Warrior Animal. He's wrestled up here for us in Great North Wrestling, telling me about you guys. And I've seen some of the clips on YouTube and pictures. Could you share some of your experiences with Animal and your thoughts on his sudden passing this year, which seemed to come out of nowhere?
Go ahead, Jax. You want to start, man?
Go ahead. Oh yeah, man. I mean, just to put it bluntly, pretty much we're the luckiest tag team in the world to have had an opportunity to have him manage us, interact with us, believe in us, push us, and allow us the privilege to be associated with him. Allow us to wear the spikes, allow us to paint our faces. I know there's guys that wear spikes and paint faces, but for him to endorse that, and for him to allow us to do that, it was a huge deal, man. Especially for our generation, the we grew up in, idolizing those guys, wanting to be those guys. His death is tragic, and it's tragic on a lot of levels. Not just for the wrestling world, man. What people don't see is how great of a dad and husband and friend he was, because they just know him as Animal. And if anything that ever I wouldn't want to get lost about him as the kind of human that he was, how important he was to his family, how good he was to his family, and how much he loved them. Yeah, his death is nothing short of an epic tragedy, man.
Yeah, I mean, we got obviously nothing but love for Animal, and he was, you know, first meeting him, and it was one of those things where you hear all these stories, and you know, you hear about the intimidation factor, the aura that he has, and I mean, I couldn't have been more like relieved of about what a nice guy he was. He really took us under his wing. The best thing about, you know, working with Animal is the excitement that he had about all of us in the future in professional wrestling for all three of us, and him willing to put his name on the line and reach out to people and try and get all of us in certain places. And I know, you know, it's, I know that obviously this is like the family is dealing with hard times, and everyone in the wrestling world was dealing with the loss of Animal. But I mean, it hit everybody extremely hard because he had so much more to give to wrestling.
Absolutely.
But we're just grateful and thankful to have had the opportunity to for him to have managed us.
Did you ever find out the actual cause of death, why he passed away?
I don't think that's for Crimson and I to talk about. I think it's been made public. I think if you do a little research, you can figure it out. But I just out of respect for the family, I don't think that's something we should probably talk about, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. And as far as the most important pieces of advice he gave you, could you share maybe the most important thing to each of you that he told you over the years?
Believability.
Yeah,
that's
man.
One thing that he felt was missing today, and the fans, the people watching either live or on the TV is believing in what they're being presented and who they're being presented. That was one of the major things that he really instilled in us: to be believable. You know, everything you do, make them believe.
Make them believe.
And there's a fan on
basically telling us to go beat up our opponents.
Well, there is too much stuff in wrestling today that just looks like planned gymnastics, and it doesn't look real at all. It's athletically impressive, but it doesn't make you buy into anything really. But so I like to see. I'm glad SWE is bringing you in, and I'm glad that they're trying to go back to the Texas style, hard hitting, believable wrestling. So you guys are going to be a great addition to the roster. But Carlos wants to know, Crimson, any chance of seeing you in Amazing Red promotion, House of Glory? I know at one point you were billed as his brother.
Yeah, I mean, I love Red. I still talk to Red occasionally these days. But he actually took an absence off of all social media, and he had been dealing with some injuries, some ankle injuries for the last few years, which really set him back because we had tried to arrange a couple of times where we could either tag together or wrestle on the same card and just do some stuff together again, but just hasn't worked out. And hopefully. We'll be able to do that in the future because Red is one hell of an athlete still. And I mean, he is, I mean,
Red was
when you watch
12 years ahead of his time. Red 10, 12 years ahead of his time, man.
Oh,
I mean, he laid the foundation for what a lot of these guys are doing today. I mean, he was doing 10, 12, 15 years ago, man. I mean, just a phenomenal his creativity is phenomenal. His athleticism is phenomenal. He's fun to watch. I mean, he's way ahead of his time, man.
And when you brought up my, the original push in TNA is that's one thing they took me away from was Red in the beginning to give me that giant push, which not to circle back to this and waste any time, but just to tell you, like, that's one thing that I wish would have stuck, back then in 2011, 2012 is that partnership with Red. He's somebody that could have taught me a lot in that time where I needed that coaching and that guidance from the veterans. So that's one thing I do kind of regret, and obviously not my decision to go away from Red, but that was too short-lived in my opinion. So hopefully we can circle back to that one day.
And Jax, as far as your New Japan work, could you share with the fans here that might not be aware of it, what you've been doing with New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Oh man, it's been some time now. I haven't been over there in a handful of years, but I worked 2 tag leagues, couple Wrestle Kingdoms. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I was entrenched in a feud with Tenzan and Kojima with Conway, and then I was the NWA World Tag Team Champion at that time with Rob Conway, and then actually won the NWA World Title from Tenzan in Texas, in San Antonio, Texas. So, if you look at my history, a lot of the more important things that I've done has been intertwined with New Japan, and I'm really thankful for those guys over there.
And what's going on with you guys in the NWA? I know they've been pretty much stopped producing the Power show since the beginning of the lockdown. Do you have any insight on if that show's going to come back anytime soon? I know I've heard some rumblings about it, and how has your experience been working in the latest incarnation of it? Because I know you guys have been working in various incarnations of the NWA forever.
I think Crimson be more apt to answer that. For me, as a talent there, not behind the scenes, but just as a talent, I had a really good time working the last season of Power. Really enjoyed working for Billy, and I really feel like we did some great work there, and the door's open for Crimson and I whenever they do get up and running, and we'll have some opportunities there.
Oh,
I think Crimson might be frozen. Oh no, there he's.
Nope, we're good.
I got you. Yeah, the NWA Power Man was a great experience. I was very fortunate again, circling back here. I was dealing with an injury, shoulder injury, last year, so I wasn't able to compete on NWA Power as a talent. But from day one, I was behind the scenes producing for NWA. I've always had a great relationship with NWA. I actually hosted the first NWA pop-up event in Tennessee, partnered with my promotion, Tried and True Pro. Great relationship with Billy and the NWA, and it's not over. It's far from over. And I know that right now, with the landscape the way it is, it's just figuring out a way to effectively, both financially and safely, be able to run or produce NWA Power. And I know that's something that is being worked on, and hopefully new year we'll have some more answers as far as what that looks like, because I'm anxious to get back. And that was one thing. NWA Power was so different. It was such a good vibe backstage. The product was electric when it came across your screen. I mean, that's one thing that really energized the wrestling world at the time, and I'm hoping we can get back to it very soon.
What's it like working with a big rock star like Billy Corgan?
He's actually, he's really great guy to talk to.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're working with a big famous rock star. I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that most people work themselves up a little more when it comes to actually dealing with Billy or talking to Billy or working with him, like in terms of that anxiety or anxiousness. Like, big rock star. He's a mega star, but he doesn't come across like that. He's a very humble, respectful person. Like, he treats you like a human being. He doesn't. He's awesome. He's a visionary. He's got great creative ideas in terms of the product, and he brings a lot to the table in terms of the wrestling world. From someone that wasn't always been a fan, obviously, but not somebody that grew up in the business. You know, he's in a different form of entertainment, so he understands entertainment value, and he brings something special to the table. And I love working for him.
And as far as starting your own promotion, Crimson, as a promoter, I know how difficult it is to make money as a wrestling event promoter. What made you get into that domain, and what have been some of the keys to your success?
I'd say I ran my first show in 2015, and it was literally almost by chance. There's a local MMA promoter and producer in the town I live in, outside of Nashville. And he had been running live MMA events and doing very well. And he was wanting to venture out and do more in terms of live events, different forms of live events. And I was training at his MMA gym at the time, and we just got into talking. What I was looking to do at the time was open up a wrestling school in the area, because at the time there was nothing reputable for anybody to go to in the area and learn. And I had great resources in my area, like Tom Latimer, who's one of my head coaches at my school, and Jeremiah Plunkett, who's a regional guy here in Tennessee, but been doing it a long time and really good. And I've had a lot of guest trainers come in. So that was the initial intent, was to get something that people could actually learn in the area. Now, I got talked into actually doing my first wrestling event by this MMA promoter, and we ran on, I believe it was a Sunday, Labor Day weekend, and ended up drawing like 800, 900 people. And I live in a military town, so those long holiday weekends, usually the military is gone. They got 4-day passes, 4-day weekends which they leave town or whatever. So to be able to draw like 800 plus was a sign right there, like, okay, we're onto something. And you know, we've run well produced, really good events since 2015. And I'd say the secret is just making it something that everybody, or that can appeal to everybody, that everybody could enjoy coming to, making more of an event rather than a niche wrestling show that you're not going to attract outside guests. And that's just live event, you know, just production speak. You know what I mean? Like, you want to appeal to everybody. You don't want to limit your audience. So what I was able to do was plug directly into my community. I was stationed here in the Army, so I was able to, you know, go on to Fort Campbell Army Base, talk to them, and get some great sponsors along the way within the community, and local media and radio and promotional partners. I mean, it was a perfect storm that came together, and I look forward to being able to do it again, but I'm not going to do it under these restricted guidelines. It's got to make sense for us to do it business-wise, because, like you said, it's hard to make money in promoting wrestling. There's a lot of risk involved. So to be able to maximize it, you know, these restrictions gotta go away. So when they do, we'll be running hard again.
And is there a website for your promotion where people could check it out?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you asking, man. It's triedandtruepro.com. It's tried, the letter N, truepro.com. We're also on all platforms, social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tried and True Pro. So you get all the latest there. Like I said, though, not a lot going on right now in terms of live events, but we do have a lot of content on the High Spots Network as well. So we got past shows up there in which you can go check out.
And Jax, you just kind of mentioned it in passing that you were NWA World Heavyweight Champion, that you defeated Tenzan for it. You held that title for over a year before Tim Storm, who's coincidentally the SWE Fury Heavyweight Champion now, took it from you, and he went on to have a good reign. But what did it mean to you to win that title that has so much history to it, and now it's having this big resurgence again in recent years?
Well, I mean, anytime you get to carry a title that's revered like that, right? That's so important to the industry, to our business. I mean, you know, the names associated with it. It was an honor. I mean, a huge honor, especially for me also to win it from Tenzan, who I have the utmost respect for and is one of the very best and most decorated wrestlers in the history of our industry. And then to pass the torch on or lose the title to Tim Storm, who is one of the best human beings that I've ever met in the wrestling business as well. So, I mean, having that title really is something that can never be taken away from me. I'm really proud to be a former NWA World Champion, NWA World Tag Team Champion, North American and National Champion. If I'm not mistaken, I'm the only basically 4 major belt title holder in the history of the NWA. I'm really proud of that. NWA's had some great champions, obviously the history. Some of the modern guys got a little bit overlooked, and I feel like I fall into that category a little bit. But there were great modern day champions along the lines of Adam Pearce and AJ Styles and Rob Conway and Kojima and Tenzan and now Tim Storm and Nick Aldis. I mean, Nick's done a great job partnering with Billy and being the face of the NWA. It's funny when before Nick even won the world title, I had told Crimson I thought he'd make a fantastic world champion, not even knowing that there was a relationship there that could be a possibility. So I'm proud of where it's at now. I mean, it's on the right guy. So, I mean, it's just an honor to be a world champion, and feels real good. And I'm still going to punch Tim Storm in the face first chance I get.
Well, that might happen on February 6th because I know he is defending that SWE title. He had a successful defense against Lance Archer on the December event. So I don't know who his opponent is going to be for February yet, but maybe he better watch his back. If
heel turn here on the show, Jax. I mean, Tim Storm is the most lovable guy in pro wrestling. You threaten to punch him in the face.
Well, I mean, you know what it is. But and in reality, when we talk about SWE, man, Tim Storm is their champion. Christy Janes is their ladies champion. Miranda Gordy, Terry Gordy's daughter, was their previous champion. And then you got Rodney Mack as their television title. Jazz is affiliated. You've got Mark Henry coming in. Kevin Sullivan's part of the team. Teddy Long, Tim Storm, James Beard. Now Crimson's on board with myself. I mean, Moonshine. You go down the list of this SWE roster. They've got a new guy that's pretty impressive that I haven't actually seen in person. He wears a mask. He wrestles as Blood Hunter. He's impressive. I mean, it's really exciting, man, because there's a lot of the style that Crimson and I can flourish in, and it's exciting to be a part of that. I mean, if we just talk SWE for a few minutes, they've got the app, the SWE Fury app. You can download that on Google Play or your Apple Store, which has the entire roster. In 2021, they're going to have SWE Fury TV. You've got I looked at the TV channels today in the cities. I want to say over 50 cities on their TV channel. You mentioned the viewers earlier, the number of households that they're in. I mean, they're doing big things, and they've got the right guys positioned in the right positions to make this. Oh, there you go. To make this successful. And it's, tickets for the February 6th event go on sale on the 26th of December. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's a Saturday right after Christmas. And you can get those at the SWEfury.com. So, I mean, it's really exciting for me to be able to come back to Texas with a roster as loaded as the SWE Fury roster is, and to bring Crimson with me and let these guys see me and us in a light. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's a lot of tag teams out there that can bring to the table what the repackaged Crimson and Dane package will look like. We've invested in ourselves over the break. We're healthier. We're in better shape. We're bigger. We're stronger. We're faster. We're more in tune with each other. We've been working hard. And 2021 is kind of, for all intents and purposes, we're looking at it like our coming out party. And it starts February 6th in Irving, Texas, Dallas, Texas, with SWE Fury. And we're coming to make a statement, man. And it's time for us to to make a stamp and leave our mark.
Yeah, and one thing you didn't mention, because they're just getting it going, is SWE Fury also has a YouTube channel. This interview is also streaming on that YouTube channel, and they're going to start building it up, and they're going to start posting the television show every week on the YouTube channel beginning very soon in the coming weeks. So that will help get the company even more publicity, and the people that don't get the TV show will be able to watch it on the SWE Fury YouTube channel. So I suggest people subscribe to that if you're watching this interview on other platforms. GK has a question for Crimson. You already talked about Impact a bit, but he's asking if there's any chance of a TNA or AEW run.
Well, look, like Jack said, 2021, it's wide open for us. And, I'm not going to just harp on everything he said, but look, we stepped in the ring with the well, they're not the current champs over there anymore, but at the time, the champs of Impact. And there's no doubt in my mind anymore that we deserve to be in a major promotion on TV every week. Because when it comes down to it, there's no one out there that is me and Jax Dane. Now, it's an exciting time to be in the business and to be watching wrestling right now with Impact Wrestling and AEW doing the crossover thing. I mean, that opens up a lot of doors for everybody. And if the doors aren't opening for me and Jax, we're going to kick them down. I assure you.
And another question for Crimson from Cubics. And also it's for Jax as well. What are your thoughts on the whole VOW gimmick? I thought it had major potential. Did Crimson have issues with them not acknowledging his past work with TNA during his run as Mayweather?
I was very receptive of the gimmick, if you will, when it was first pitched. Obviously, when I can tie in my real life military background to wrestling and what I'm doing on screen in the ring, obviously that's an easy crossover for me. I'm comfortable with that. But at the time, it was just short-lived. I think it had legs, but it really didn't have a chance to get off the ground. It didn't have a chance to jog or even run. But it had legs to do so. I mean, it was one of those things, again, where things shuffle around behind the scenes, backstage. And once people made some different moves backstage, then it's one of those things that VOW went from being booked on Slammiversary to being to watching on pay-per-view in a matter of days. So it's just one of those things you just kind of got to take and deal with. But at the same time, it was a repackage, rebranding, a new thing. And when you're trying to relaunch and rebrand and get people to focus on what you're doing in the current, like, you don't want to necessarily harp on the past. So I don't mind them not referencing, my previous TNA run and the undefeated streak and all that, because it was time to move on. It was time to start a new thing with me and Jax and focus on that. And look, that didn't last long in Impact, but you see what we're doing. If you haven't seen what we're doing, pay attention, because we saw the potential and everyone else saw the potential in us together as a package, and we're going to run with it, continue to.
One of our members here, Matt R, is asking who designed your Crimson shirt.
Oh, thank you. That's my new shirt, actually, designed by Territory Wrestling Tees. Check them out, territorywrestlingtees.com. They got all of my merch. They got some other people's merch on there too, other wrestlers, other promotions. They do similar to like a collar and elbow style. They've got their own wrestling branded shirts, which are really cool. Territorywrestlingtees.com. Get them on Twitter and Instagram too, TWTTs.
And if the fans out there want to follow you guys on social media, where could they look you up on your platforms?
I'm on Twitter @Crimson, real easy, @Crimson. And Instagram @officialcrimson. I'm also on Facebook. I got a Facebook page at Official Crimson Army, but I can tell you I'm most active on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
And what about you, Jax?
Pretty similar. It's at the Jax Dane on Twitter and at Jax Dane on Instagram. I have a Facebook page as well, but it's more personal stuff than wrestling. But there is a little bit of wrestling stuff on there as well. But same as Crimson, I'm more active on my Twitter and my Instagram.
Yes, and I think I've seen on your social media, Jax. I think you have I don't know if you're married or not, but your partner is very attractive. So good for you,
man. Yeah, I actually, Crimson and I both way outkicked our coverage, man. Yeah, I got married. I don't want to tell you the wrong date. I think November 19th this year. So you know, it's I'm a lucky guy, man. She's definitely got the looks and the brains in the in the relationship. So I got a stepson that's 15, so I get to enjoy being a dad as well. So yeah, man, life is great. I'm really lucky, really blessed.
Well, to close this off, do you guys want to give more of a wrestling style promo on what's going to happen when you come to the Sweethearts Brawl in Irving, Texas, February 6th? And let me just remind fans, if you live in that area, Justin Credible is going to be there, Teddy Long, Kevin Sullivan, Mark Henry, Tim Storm, Christy Janes, Rodney Mack, Jazz, tons of female talent. SWE is really working on their female division. And of course, the SWE Fury debut of Jax Dane and Crimson. So what's going to happen?
Oh man, we're just gonna come have fun, man. We're gonna do what we do. Matter of fact, we're coming out to San Antonio here in a couple weeks in January to clang and bang with Rodney Mack a little bit. So we'll probably wait till then to give you the wrestling style promo when we're
who's your
Rodney.
champs?
And,
who's your champs, Jax, right now?
They don't have tag champs right now. We're their champs. We're gonna be there. Okay. We're their champs.
Well, let's make that claim right now then.
Yeah, man. No, we're coming to SW to make a statement, man. Great promotion. Like you said, you ran through the talent earlier, man. We're lucky to be affiliated with such a roster like that. And man, we're excited and we're grateful.